Welcome to you, Mother Truckers. This week, we're taking a pit stop into two wild flash fiction stories you shared with us. Get ready for a roller coaster of near-death experiences and unexpected cosmic conflicts, all sparked by the fantastic tales you've sent our way.
Yeah, I'm excited. Sounds like we've got some really interesting material to dig into.
First up, let's talk about flickers. Imagine, for a moment, being just a hair's breadth from death, and then seeing this hidden, terrifying world layered right beneath our own reality. You sent us this flash fiction story about Maya's close call and the unsettling baggage she brought back with her. We can unpack her terrifying new normal and the rather peculiar support group she stumbles upon. What were your initial thoughts on this one?
Well, the premise itself is immediately captivating, you know? The idea that a near-death experience could peel back the layers of our perceived reality, it opens up some really fascinating possibilities, not just for horror, but for exploring the nature of consciousness itself, I think.
Absolutely. And then we'll shift gears entirely with Starfire. Forget your typical disaster flicks. This meteor isn't about wiping us out, It ignites a full-blown cosmic war right in the middle of an otherwise ordinary town. We'll explore how a group of seemingly regular teenagers suddenly find themselves wielding incredible powers and become Earth's incredibly unlikely and probably unprepared first line of defense against alien invaders.
Right, a classic setup, but with immense potential for examining themes of responsibility and, that unexpected heroism that can arise from the most ordinary circumstances.
So buckle up, because these are definitely not the kinds of stories you'd read to lull yourself to sleep. Let's dive straight into flickers. One of the first things that really stood out to me in the flash fiction story you sent was the near-death experience trope, the whole white tunnel thing. And Maya's reaction to it being a cliche was so immediate. What did you make of that narrative choice?
That immediate dismissal, like you said, is a really effective move. By having Maya acknowledge the cliche and find it, well, underwhelming, the author cleverly subverts our expectations right from the start. It kind of grounds the initial experience in a relatable skepticism before plunging us into the truly uncanny stuff.
Yeah.
It makes us, the reader, maybe more willing to accept the more outlandish elements that follow, because the story's already shown a degree of self-awareness.
Exactly. It's like the story is saying, you think you know this part, well, think again.
Mhm.
And it definitely delivers on that with the sudden flicker and that chilling cold breath. It's such a stark contrast to the peaceful imagery usually associated with near-death experiences. What do you think that shift accomplishes?
Well, that rapid descent from the expected serenity to something palpably sinister is designed to create immediate unease. The flicker suggests a disruption, maybe a tear in the fabric of reality, while the cold breath introduces a tangible, almost predatory presence. It's a very visceral detail that hints at the malevolent nature of the hidden world Maya has inadvertently glimpsed. It raises the stakes immediately.
Then she returns to what should be her normal world, but it's now fundamentally different from Maya. The flash fiction story throws in these really unsettling details, her cat hissing at seemingly nothing, her own reflection appearing subtly changed. How do these small, almost domestic details amplify the sense of unease that you felt as you were reading?
Those seemingly minor changes are incredibly effective in establishing that Maya hasn't just had an internal experience. Something fundamental about her connection to reality has shifted, the cat's
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah, classic.
It taps into our understanding of animals as being more attuned to subtle shifts, right? Her changed reflection introduces a disturbing question about her own identity and whether she truly returned unchanged. These details make the threat feel personal and pervasive, kind of creeping into the everyday and eroding her sense of normalcy.
And then school, of all the mundane places, becomes this terrifying landscape with that overlay of the in-between world. The flash fiction story's description of the wispy forms, the subtle but crucial distinction drawn between the peaceful and the twisted ones. And then there's Ashley, that particularly chilling clawed shadow. That imagery is really striking and disturbing. What did that specific detail convey to you?
Well, the school setting provides a powerful juxtaposition, doesn't it, between the ordinary routines of teenage life and the extraordinary, terrifying reality Maya now perceives. The wispy forms might suggest, the lingering presence of those who have passed, but the clawed shadow around Ashley signifies something actively malevolent, something feeding or influencing her. It immediately creates a focal point for the danger and raises the stakes for Maya. It's no longer just about her own altered perception.
It's not long before Maya, as we often do in this digital age, seeks answers online and stumbles upon the concept of wraiths. The explanation you sent us in the flash fiction story parasites feeding on fear and pain, invisible unless you've danced with death. It clicks perfectly with her unsettling experiences. What's the significance of introducing this sort of pseudoscientific explanation for the supernatural?
Hmm. Introducing the idea of wraiths and their specific vulnerabilities provides a framework for understanding what Maya is encountering. It shifts the narrative slightly from pure horror to something that has a kind of internal logic, even if that logic is rooted in the fantastical. It also gives Maya, and potentially her newfound allies, a potential means of understanding and perhaps even combating these entities. The connection to fear and pain also explains why they might be drawn to certain individuals or locations. It makes sense.
And then we're introduced to Ben and Sarah, these fellow seers. I found the makeshift nature of their ghost-busting crew so compelling. Ben armed with a taser, Sarah doing research on her laptop, and poor Maya seemingly acting as this unintentional wraith magnet.
Yeah.
There's almost a darkly humorous element to their situation, isn't there?
Absolutely. There's a certain endearing quality to their amateur approach in the face of such a terrifying reality. It makes them feel like ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, trying to make sense of something far beyond their usual experience. Ben's taser and Sarah's research highlight their resourcefulness, their attempt to apply logic and practical solutions to a decidedly illogical problem.
Right, a taser against a ghost.
Exactly. And Maya's role as the magnet just underscores the lasting impact of her near-death experience.
The flash fiction story takes a much darker turn with Ashley's disappearance and the shadows solidifying. Their decision to track her to the abandoned hospital, it's classic horror territory. What did this story do effectively to build that overwhelming sense of dread and wrongness as they approached that location?
Well, the abandoned hospital is a potent symbol, isn't it? Decay, suffering, death. It's naturally unsettling. The story probably used sensory details, descriptions of the dilapidated building, maybe the oppressive silence, the feeling of cold spots to amplify that sense of wrongness. By focusing on Maya's heightened sensitivity to the flickering world, the author could have conveyed a palpable increase in the wraith's presence and power as they drew closer to its lair. You feel it building.
And then the confrontation itself. The flash fiction story surprises us by having the wraith target Maya directly, not Ashley. That attack sounds brutal, described as 1,000 icy needles. But it's Maya's own brush with death that strangely empowers her, making her tainted with deathish energy. That's a fascinating and unexpected twist in the narrative. What implications did that have for you as you were reading?
That twist is crucial because it shifts Maya from being just a victim to a potential force against these entities. It suggests that her near-death experience wasn't just a traumatic event. It fundamentally altered her, giving her a connection to the other side that the wraiths can sense and even fear. It introduces a dynamic where her vulnerability becomes a source of strength, a kind of twisted immunity or even a conduit for otherworldly power. It's a neat idea.
The flash fiction story then describes Maya lashing out with this echoing chill of the beyond. It's such a vivid image. And for the first time, Ben and Sarah are actually able to see the wraith, this warped, fanged shape. How does making the previously invisible threat visible at this critical moment heighten the tension and impact of the scene?
Making the wraith visible provides a tangible focal point for the climax, right? It transforms the unseen terror into a physical entity that Ben and Sarah can now perceive and actively fight alongside Maya. The description of its warped and fanged form likely serves to solidify its malevolent nature and raise the stakes of the physical confrontation. It moves beyond a psychological threat to a very real physical danger. You can actually fight it now.
The combined effort to banish the wraith, Ben's taser, Sarah's chant, and Maya's final push, it's a classic monster fighting scene. But as we discussed, with this really grounded, almost amateur feel. And then the flash fiction story ends with the chilling finality of the air snapping shut. What did that particular detail leave you with?
That detail provides a sense of closure for this specific encounter. The snapping air suggests a severing of the connection, or return to the normal state of things, at least on the surface. It leaves the reader with a sense of relief, but also maybe a lingering unease, knowing that the underlying reality has been revealed and could potentially be breached again. It's not really over, is it?
The aftermath in the flash fiction story is quite poignant. Ashley remains completely oblivious to the terrifying events, and you just know that Maya, Ben, and Sarah would likely be dismissed if they tried to explain what happened. But Maya carries this profound internal realization about the reality of the flickering world. It's a secret that now defines her experience. What do you think the author was aiming to convey with this sense of isolation?
Well, the isolation underscores the idea that some truths are just too strange or too frightening for the wider world to accept. It highlights the burden that Maya and her friends now carry, the knowledge of a hidden reality that most people remain blissfully unaware of. This isolation can be a powerful thematic element, exploring the feeling of being an outsider or the responsibility that comes with possessing knowledge that others don't.
And as Maya walks home at the end of the flash fiction story, she notices these subtle changes, the shadows shimmering less, the cold spots fading. The final thought is that being one heartbeat removed from death somehow made her more alive. What do you think this suggests about Maya's future and the overall message of this particular tale you shared with us?
That final thought is quite profound, isn't it? It suggests that facing death can, paradoxically, lead to a greater appreciation for life. Maya's heightened awareness of the flickering world might fade somewhat, but her fundamental understanding of reality has been altered. It hints that she may live more fully, perhaps more cautiously, with a deeper understanding of the fragility and the hidden depths of existence. It raises the question of whether facing our own mortality, even indirectly, can sharpen our focus on the present moment. Makes you think.
That's a really compelling thought. Okay, let's completely shift gears now and plunge into Starfire, the second flash fiction story you sent us. This one starts with a really unconventional meteor arrival. Instead of the typical panic or dread, Sam experiences this strange anticipation. What does that unusual reaction signal right from the beginning of the story?
Yeah, that sense of anticipation immediately sets the story apart from typical disaster narratives. It suggests that this meteor is not necessarily just a destructive force, but something potentially transformative, even purposeful. It creates an immediate hook, making us wonder what Sam senses that others don't, and hinting at a more complex narrative than a simple tale of cosmic destruction. Something's different here.
And when the teens in your flash fiction story finally discover the meteor, it has these really peculiar properties. It's described as smooth, warm, and even pulsing. And then you have these immediate bizarre effects on Ben and Maya, static electricity crackling around one, and a shimmering protective energy suddenly enveloping the other. It's like this object is imbuing them with something extraordinary. What did these initial reactions suggest to you about the nature of the meteor?
These unusual properties strongly suggest that the meteor isn't just an inert space rock, but an artifact of some kind, possibly possessing an energy source or even a form of consciousness, maybe. The immediate manifestation of unique powers in Ben and Maya indicates a direct interaction between the artifact and their individual biology, hinting that they are perhaps somehow predisposed or receptive to its influence. It immediately establishes a sense of wonder and the potential for something truly remarkable. It's not just a rock falling from the sky.
The flash fiction story then moves into this initial phase of the teens discovering their newfound powers. And it's anything but glamorous. It's filled with fear, with fumbling attempts, Maya's force fields buckling unexpectedly, Ben causing random power outages, and Sam being too scared to even really test out his mysterious Starfire. Why do you think this portrayal of gaining superpowers in such an awkward and uncertain way makes the story so relatable?
Because it reflects the reality of learning any new and complex skill, right? It's rarely instantaneous or graceful. This initial clumsiness and fear make the characters feel more human and grounded, even as they're experiencing something inherently fantastical. It allows us, the reader, to empathize with their struggles and makes their eventual mastery of these abilities feel earned and more believable. It avoids that trope of instant superhero competence and focuses on the human element of adaptation and discovery. It feels real somehow.
Then, in your flash fiction story, comes this significant shift from personal, somewhat chaotic discovery to a global threat with those sudden, disturbing visions of warships. The realization that this strange artifact is likely a weapon and that they're now inadvertently caught in the middle of some kind of cosmic conflict that's a massive leap in stakes and responsibility for these teenagers. What impact did that revelation have on the direction of the story for you?
Oh, the introduction of the visions serves as a crucial turning point. It dramatically expands the scope of the narrative. It reveals that their individual experiences are part of a much larger, more dangerous reality. It forces them to confront the fact that their newfound abilities aren't just personal quirks, but potentially vital tools in a cosmic conflict they never asked to be part of. This raises the stakes exponentially and propels them from a local phenomenon to key players in a potential interstellar war. Things just got serious.
And then the alien invasion actually begins in your flash fiction story, and these teenagers are suddenly thrust into this role, using their still developing powers as what's described as ill-fitting armor. The descriptions are so vivid, Ben becoming a human lightning storm, Maya conjuring these soap bubble shields, and Sam finally unleashing these searing blasts of starfire. It really plays up that classic underdog dynamic, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The ill-fitting armor metaphor perfectly captures their unpreparedness and the raw, untamed nature of their powers. Despite their inexperience and the limitations of their still developing abilities, they're forced to step up and defend their home. These vivid descriptions not only make the action more exciting, but also highlight their individual strengths and how they're learning to utilize them in the chaotic environment of a real battle. It's the essence of the underdog story, ordinary individuals rising to meet extraordinary challenges.
The flash fiction story depicts this incredible fight happening right above their sleepy town as a true David and Goliath battle. And it really emphasizes their clumsiness, their sheer desperation, and the very real cost of this fight. The description of them bleeding more than they blasted is particularly impactful. It's not this clean, effortless, superheroic clash. It feels messy, visceral, very real. Why is that sense of vulnerability so important in a story like this?
That vulnerability is crucial for maintaining a sense of realism and emotional connection with the characters. If they were instantly perfect in their powers, it would distance the reader. By showing their struggles, their injuries, their desperate efforts, the story emphasizes their bravery and their willingness to fight despite the overwhelming odds. It makes their eventual successes, however small, feel much more significant and hard-won. It underscores the human cost of conflict even when superpowers are involved. It hurts.
But despite all their inexperience and the sheer power of their adversaries in your flash fiction story, they do have a key advantage, right? It's described as the fierce, reckless stubbornness of those fighting for home. How does that particular motivation resonate with you, and why do you think it's often portrayed as such a powerful force in storytelling?
Oh, the instinct to protect one's home, one's community, loved ones, it's deeply primal and incredibly powerful. It transcends fear and can push individuals to perform acts of extraordinary courage and resilience. This fierce, reckless stubbornness speaks to that fundamental human drive. It resonates so strongly because we can all understand that deep connection to place and belonging, making even seemingly ordinary individuals capable of incredible feats when those things are threatened. It's a universal theme.
The outcome of this initial battle in your flash fiction story is a crashed alien ship and a temporary reprieve. And then you have the immediate arrival of scientists and the palpable anticipation of a world that has been irrevocably changed. As a reader, that their lives, and indeed the world, will never be the same after this. What kind of future do you envision for these characters and their town after such an event?
Well, the arrival of the scientists signifies the beginning of a new and likely very complex phase. Their town has become ground zero for an extraterrestrial conflict, and these teenagers are now at the forefront of humanity's interaction with an alien civilization, one that's proven hostile. Their future will likely involve navigating the scientific investigation, potential further threats, and the immense pressure of being the only ones who truly understand the danger and possess the means to fight it. Their lives as ordinary teenagers, yeah, those are likely over.
And the flash fiction story ends with a real sense of internal transformation for Sam. He's no longer just an ordinary teen. He's now part of Earth's first fumbling line of defense. The sheer scale of the war they are now bound to is immense. What do you think are the most significant long-term implications of this sudden and dramatic shift in their roles?
The long-term implications are profound. They've been thrust into a position of immense responsibility, potentially shaping the future of humanity's survival. They'll likely need to master their powers quickly, maybe through training or further encounters. They'll also have to grapple with the psychological toll of combat and the burden of keeping such a monumental secret. Their adolescence has been abruptly ended, replaced by the daunting reality of being guardians of Earth, a role for which they are likely ill-prepared but have nonetheless embraced. It's a heavy weight to carry.
Wow, what incredible flash fiction stories you shared with us. In Flickers, we got a terrifying glimpse into a hidden dimension coexisting right alongside our own, all sparked by a brush with death. And in Starfire, ordinary teens were unexpectedly thrust into an extraordinary cosmic conflict, proving that even when facing seemingly insurmountable odds, the fierce will to protect what you love can be an incredibly powerful force.
Both stories, yeah, in their own unique ways, explored the extraordinary potential that can be unearthed when ordinary individuals are confronted with the utterly unexpected and the terrifyingly real.
We really hope these pit stops into the captivating world of flash fiction sparked some aha moments for you and maybe even sent a shiver or two down your spine. What resonated most with you in these tales? Did Maya's newfound ability to perceive wraiths change how you think about the unseen aspects of the world around you? What would you do, honestly, if you suddenly found yourself with powers like Sam, Ben, or Maya?
These stories certainly make you ponder the hidden layers of reality and the untapped reserves of courage and ability that might lie dormant within us all, just waiting for an extraordinary circumstance to awaken them. Food for thought, definitely.
Here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on. In both of these fantastic flash fiction stories, the central characters undergo fundamental transformations as a direct result of their extreme experiences. Maya gains a terrifying awareness, while Sam and his friends are no longer just ordinary teenagers navigating everyday life. How do you think truly extreme circumstances ultimately shape who we become as individuals and maybe as a collective?
Well, it forces us to confront our limitations, doesn't it? To adapt in ways we never thought possible and often reveals the core of our character under pressure. It suggests that true identity isn't just who we are in comfortable times, but who we become when faced with the ultimate test. It's defining.
Thank you so much for joining us for this pit stop into the wild world of flash fiction. Don't forget to rate and follow you Mother Truckers for more captivating mysteries from the world of flash fiction. We'll catch you next time with more incredible tales and fantastic stories.
Until our next pit stop.